happens. But thanks for everyone for tuning in, and PJ, thanks for letting me come pick your brain a little. Um, really wanting to speak to you today about how to set a New Year's resolution that may actually stick, kind of get your opinion on those
Yeah.
in general, and then briefly touch upon a couple parts of the boot camp that, I personally think is your most valuable product. I know watches
I do
and
too.
oh, well, cool.
I think so, but
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm like really
Yeah.
smart when it comes to business.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people don't realize that even the watches and cars are an extension of the business part.
Yeah.
But the mentality behind the boot camp is really like what even allows the watches and cars to happen. So,
Right.
so a lot of times when people go, oh, well, I see what you guys are doing with watches and cars. How do you get over this part or that? And it's like a lot of that comes from the 20 years of experience in that boot camp that basically like teach people what all the qualifications and mental qualifications you need to be able to be successful in life, regardless that you do watches, cars, business, entrepreneurship, you want to launch a product. I was telling you before this, we just launched a new product like 3 months ago, and we went from $1,000 like a month to 60 to 70,000 a month in sales, with ad costs being 10%. And so a lot of people go, well, how do you do that so fast? What doesn't take so long with a brand new product? And they go, well, it has to do with cloud. And really it doesn't. It has to do with a process.
Gotcha.
And a lot of that process is in the bootcamp. So I do think it's a very qualified and powerful product, even though people may argue that, well, it includes things from third circle theory, which are older, but they're still relevant. So, so just because they're older doesn't mean they're not relevant today. If we're talking about a book I wrote in 13, that's still universally relevant. Awareness and consciousness doesn't change every year based on the drop shipping or not, so a lot of people don't seem to understand that. So they think that if something is not relevant today, like meaning it wasn't created yesterday, there's something that's changed, because they think of everything in a money-making opportunity. Money does change, but people don't change quickly, right?
Gotcha.
Like they take time to evolve. So
very cool. And as a reminder, if you have questions or comments, please type them in and we'll make sure we get through those. Christian will help feed those on. But touching back on, what's your opinion on A, having a New Year's resolution, and B, depending on how you answer that, how do you make them stick?
So first off, the 99% of reasons why New Year resolutions don't work, let's talk about that first, is because the people making them live in the first circle. And what are the three circles? Is mastery of circumstance, mastery of society, mastery of life. And most people who have not mastered circumstance won't stick to resolution. I'll tell you the simplest reason why. If you need circumstance, which dictates a calendar to tell you when to start taking yourself seriously, because it triggers a date. It goes, January 1st, things are different. No, they're not. They were the same December 1st. You were fucked September 1st. You were fucked August 1st. Nothing changed. But somehow you had to wait till circumstance told you that 2021 appears.
Right.
And somehow that is going to change your life now, and you're re-energized. That in itself is a flawed mentality, right? That you have to wait till something happens for something else to occur.
Yep.
Right. And I think that is the number one reason why most people fail in life, is they always give a reason why something doesn't work on the basis that something else needs to happen. Like my ex-wife used to say this, well, I'll change when you do this. It was like, well, you don't need to change, because I did something. You need to change because you want to change.
Right.
That has nothing to do with other people. Get it? So
almost ultimatum-ish.
Well, it doesn't matter that it's, because in the context of love or relationships or business, these are different kind of contexts, but it's, to be fair, any single human being can choose to change regardless of the context of why they're changing. Because of their personal choice of change, not because of the environment. So if you're a byproduct of your environment, you're stuck in the first circle. And what I'm saying is those people are those, which the majority of the world is, like 96% is, are most likely not going to ever make a resolution that sticks, because they're not masters of their circumstance. So they're stuck in their circumstance change and says 2021 is a new date. And then guess what? Circumstance change in February, something new happens, and it keeps them from doing anything, So all I'm saying, I don't know whose phone that is.
I'll turn that.
Okay. So all I'm saying is that at some point you get somewhere where you realize that if you want to make a resolution that sticks, it has to come from your internal concept first, which is your acceptance inside that you are the driver of the change and not circumstance. So how or what can we do to make change last enough to see through to the end? Well, the majority of resolutions come from the same issue where people have instant gratification issues. So a lot of times, for example, you have people saying things like, I don't know, they'll say something along the lines of, I want to lose 30 pounds this year.
Yeah.
Right. That's a resolution.
I hear it all the time.
What's another resolution you have that you think people use every year?
Quit smoking.
Okay.
They seem to be health related for most people,
Okay.
I think.
And some other people are money related.
You know, save better,
okay,
invest more.
I need to make more.
Yeah.
I need to do this. I need to do that. Usually that has a value component to it. Like, I need to lose 30 pounds. I need to make 5,000 a month. I need to quit smoking, which is a behavior that has an end result, right? The end result is quitting smoking. The end result is making 5,000 a month. The end result is losing 30 pounds. The resolution is built in specifically the result, not in the behavior. Okay. So if someone's resolution was, I need to go to the gym twice a week, every day this year, it's much easier to stick to that than to stick to, I need to lose 30 pounds. And the reason for that is because there's no plan to getting to 30 pounds. And that is the end result, which you don't have basically a bridge to. Versus if I need to go to gym twice a week and I stick to that model, it's very likely that I'm going to end up losing 30 pounds. Get it?
Yep.
Like, and so the 30 pounds is really the byproduct of your personal capacity to hold this behavior, and should not be a goal when you don't really know where the 30 pounds comes from, other than in your head as to what you want. So what happens is, if you get in this resolution and you go, I'm going to lose 30 pounds, and you go to the gym every day for 2 weeks, and then go, I didn't lose 30 pounds.
Good.
Well, what happens is you start getting demotivated.
Right.
So it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Same as when someone starts a business, they go, I need to be making 100K. Then a year goes by and they're like, I'm not making 100K. This is a bad business. And they lose sight of that, you know, and they lose sight that maybe the business is good, but the measure of which they're measuring the business is inaccurate. So it's down demoralizing, and they feel like they're not going to make it. So they quit the business, even when it was doing good. You know, it could have actually made it if tweaks were made. Same happens with the gym. Now, if you go, I'm going to lose 30 pounds, that might be a very good wish to lose 30 pounds. But the point is that it's not going to happen fast enough for you to see the result fast enough, for you to stick the course and see it through the next 6 months. And also remember that resolutions based on numbers, typically, even if you do reach them, reach that number, but don't create a habit or a behavior. So every year you're making the same thing. You go forward, backward, forward, backward. So the key to good resolutions is behavioral in the practice of what will get me there, rather than the result of what I seek. So it's like, if the behavior is to go to gym twice a week, that's a lifestyle change. That's going to lead you to a very healthy, like 2021 in health, you know, regardless that it's 20 pounds, 30 pounds, or maybe no weight loss, but muscle gain, and you look better and you feel better. And so the same can be done with money. When people make resolutions of making money, again, I need to make $5,000 a month. How about I need to get better in the mortgage business and sell 3 loans a week? You know, like, again, those are real behaviors that can lead to much more than 5,000 a month.
Gotcha.
But because the limiting factor is on a number, that number is not reached, people give up and drop off because life happens. You know, like, you make this goal, suddenly you have a new kid, you're like, fuck, I can't go to the gym. Like, now I have a problem. You know, oh, I can't go to work as much. And now in your head, you're justifying why you're backtracking your goal, right? You're like, something is now stopping me and I can't accomplish what I said. But you don't feel bad about it because you feel like, hey, something happened to me. It's not my fault.
Right.
Get it? Like, and that's what usually happens to people. It's like, it's not my fault. And if you start looking at life as everything is your fault, it's absolutely your fault, no matter what. Then you start taking ownership for things happening or not happening are your fault. So the only way they're going to happen is if you own them and see them through to the end.
Very cool. So with kind of to summarize that, it's between planning, setting smaller goals, having a larger vision, which you touch on a lot in the boot camp. Why do you think so many people have a January 1st instead of, hey, it's December 8th, let's get better now? What is it that causes people to wait or hesitate?
Remember, delay is the greatest form of denial.
Okay. Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Delay is the greatest form of denial. There's something they just don't want to face.
Gotcha.
It's like, that's why I'm saying the commitment's not there. Right?
Okay. Commitment.
Like you have to get to a place where you go, like someone goes, I'm ready to buy a car. I'm like, great. When you're ready, like, well, I'm going to wait till January 1st. And I'm like, okay, what will physically change between now and January 1st? Like, are you expecting to make 5 times more money on January 1st?
Right.
No. Okay, then what is blocking? Well, I think something may happen in January. Well, okay. Well, I think isn't a good strategy, right? So I always say hope's not a good strategy. And what it comes down to is, what data do you have to back up your thought? And usually none. What you have is a fear of doing something.
Gotcha.
And so you're extending a deadline to allow yourself the slow move of getting it. I mean, think about it this way. You see a chick at a bar, like you go up and you give yourself a reason if you're afraid to interact, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go, well, she got friends around her. I'll wait till she hits the bathroom. Then she hits the bathroom and you're like, well, there was a dude over there talking.
Yeah.
Well, now she's leaving the thing. Well, the guy at the door is kind of cold outside. Like, so now you're just delaying the process.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to do something, then fucking do it. Because what happens is, if you don't do it, what happens? By the time you made up your mind to not talk to her when she had her friends, by the time she went to the bathroom, you didn't talk to her. By the time she walked outside, another guy with balls was like, hey, let me talk to you. Now you're like, well, that guy's talking to her. Well, yeah, that guy closed. You didn't. He got what you wanted.
Yeah.
And maybe the next opportunity isn't as good. That's the problem with people, is that they always give themselves an excuse that it wasn't meant to happen. It wasn't meant to be, so therefore I'm okay. But you can't blame not meant to be on your own incapacity to face yourself. It's like, it wasn't meant to be is maybe accurate if you did everything in your power to make something happen,
right? And
it didn't happen. Not if you pussied out your whole life and then go, well, it didn't just fall into my lap. Right. I wasn't meant to be a billionaire because $1 billion didn't fall into my lap. I just didn't do shit my whole life. Yeah. If you say, however, I worked my ass off every fucking day, I adapted, I learned, I grew, I did everything, and I still can't get there. Like there's still a block for me, even though I've always overcome myself. Then you can start blaming the fact that maybe you're missing something in the equation. And maybe it's not just your doing, maybe you're in the wrong line of business or something, but you can't blame the industry anymore, right? Because you've done your part in it.
Very cool. All right. Well, I think that's a cool way to kick off. And Christian, I know, is getting some of the questions coming in. One of the ones that was, we'll hit 2 or 3 of these before. And in the meantime, if you've ever set a New Year's resolution that you've actually kept, please send a comment out so Christian can let us know. But one of the questions from the post was, what is your take on burnout and how do you bounce back?
So I don't believe in burning out. The only time you burn out is when you don't know where you're going.
Okay.
People burn out when they don't have a destination. Like you have to think this way. Like, you burn out when you're swimming in the ocean and you don't see the land. And you eventually give up because you get tired and your arms get tired. But if you know your survival depends on getting to the land and you can see the land clearly, you're going to have supernatural strength to save yourself, And I think the same happens in business and in life. When you know where you're going, you're not ever burning out because you're pacing yourself to the way you need to end up in that goal. The people that burn out are the people that basically come to work. Like, you get on a ship when you're building a business or you're heading in your life and you say, where are we heading, Captain? You're the captain of that ship. Then you say, well, I don't know. Everybody row. Well, eventually people get tired and they go, how long do we row? How do I have to pace my strength? Do I go till I die? I'm hungry. Do I eat now? Do I eat later? Like, again, there is no direction. There's no path. There's no destination. If there's no destination, eventually either yourself, your team, the people around you are going to burn out because they're being asked to do something without purpose and without destination. So purpose is what gives you, when you have a destination, then basically your purpose becomes to reach that destination. And a person driven by purpose is never bogged down by circumstance. Like, some of these people jumped off and couldn't row anymore. They went back. They found new people. They fucking got a penguin to row. It doesn't fucking matter. Like, they figure out the point that if you are driven by purpose, you're not slowed down by circumstance, or you're not slowed down by judgment, or you're not slowed down by people's opinions, things like that. You're not. However, if you don't have a destination and you're lost, then yeah, things can weigh you down, right? First
Yeah.
off, you're burning out because you're overworking yourself,
Mhm.
and you're not getting the money, obviously, right? So you're burning down, or you're making money, but you don't see how to scale that money. So you go like, am I doing this forever? Did I buy
Mhm.
myself a job? And then the same as other things weigh in. Your family doesn't agree. You're always working. You're always doing that.
Yeah.
What's happening? Like, and you don't have a path. So you don't have a way to say, I'm working now, but give me till, like
Right.
then things will be different. So I guess what needs to happen is people need to understand without a destination, you will 100% burn out. Without a destination, purpose cannot take its place. It's very, very difficult. If you ask most people, what do you want to do in life? Like, where do you want to be? Everyone knows they want to make money,
Mm-hmm.
but nobody knows what they want to do. I don't even mean what business they want to own. The business isn't even what to do. Is who do you want to be? Like, if you asked me when I was young, like, what do you want to be? I was like, I'm a banker. They're like, do you want to? I'm like, I want to be a money guy. Like, I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
And that was my purpose for the moment. What I'm saying is to become the best money guy there was.
Has that shifted?
Well, it was then, meaning
Yeah.
that was what I called in the third circle. There's basically the second circle is the mastery of society. Society is driven into two purpose grounds, which is what we call societal identity and cosmic identity. So when purpose takes its place in its initial stages, it is to enter the second circle. And that gives you what you call societal identity, which you accept to be your identity in society. For me, it was to be a banker, a money guy. That was my societal identity.
Okay.
As I overcame that identity, I decided, what do I want my cosmic identity to be? Not bound by an organization, not bound by the sake of making money, but where do I want my impact to resonate the most? And my impact was in teaching. So I said, my societal identity is the money guy. My cosmic identity is teaching. So now how I combine the two or how I transition the third circle has nothing to do with, choosing what you are, but rather understanding how to evolve past one to the next and further. And I think one thing that people have misunderstood about the art of success is that success comes from compounding knowledge and compounding effort. And so often they make their effort in one place. You struggle with that too. You had a lab, you had one business. You quickly pivot.
Yeah.
You go to another business and you justify the failure by diversification. You go, if I'm diversified, then I'll be everywhere at the same time, and I'll make money. Instead of saying, what do I want to be? Being an entrepreneur is not something. It doesn't mean anything. It's like saying I want to fucking be rich. It doesn't mean anything. But saying, like, Elon Musk is a fucking engineer. Look at everything he's done in his life. He's a fucking engineer. It doesn't matter what the fuck. He engineers shit.
Yep.
And that's what he does. Like, it doesn't matter. He engineers a plane, a fucking spaceship, or a car. Doesn't matter. That's what he does. He engineers things. And what I'm saying is he's figured out how to become a very innovative engineer. So and he's getting paid royally for that, for engineering stuff. And what I'm saying is that a lot of people don't understand that I've committed to being a teacher. Now, obviously, it took time. It took me 10 years to learn how to be an excellent teacher. As a result of that, I've now completely taught myself all the aspects of teaching. I've combined different results and I've become not just rich previously, but now I'm able to combine what I love doing and my cosmic identity with my experience and my societal identity. Combine the two and make money in both ways, not just through my societal identity of being a money guy, but also have leveraged and now monetized my passion, right? Yeah. And that's how that takes place.
Yeah. And I think that's the perfect segue into kind of having a little couple questions to talk about the boot camp. As you know, I went through it. I did in 80 days. It's self-paced. It's something that does take commitment, but I think sometimes when I've talked to a lot of people since, right, it's something they can't grab. So it's hard to grasp it. And I'm kind of hoping with some of these questions, we get a little more clear idea what it is, because the thought that you put into it, the order that it's in, a reading followed by an interview, followed by a task, followed by whatever, it's amazing. It really is, right? Because it makes perfect sense from day 1 to day 90, 13 weeks of that. And it's hard to tell people that sometimes. And I'm just wondering, like, kind of in your words, what is the boot camp?
So first off, I think that's the problem, is that people need to be sold on something.
Okay.
I think the problem is that people need to be sold that they need to fix their life. Anyone watching this can look in a mirror and bullshit their feelings into, oh, I'm so good at what I do. I'm there.
But by day 4,
you need to understand. It's not about even accepting that. If you look in a mirror and you're fucking fat, stop telling yourself it's okay. It's not okay. Like, you have the power to change.
Right.
You can't afford a gym? Fucking run outside. I used to run in blistering cold weather. Not because I couldn't afford a gym, because I didn't have time to go to a gym. But it's still not an excuse for not being optimal. And if you're stupid, you don't have access to like resources like colleges and things that the average human can go through, and you don't have a life that's simple. If you're a minority, a person of color, maybe you don't have access to the monetary concepts of a 4-year college education and the comfort of a beautiful university when you can party on the weekends. Use fucking YouTube. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, stop making an excuse as to why you need to be told that your life sucks. Like, look in a fucking mirror and ask yourself, do you have what you want in life? And if you don't have what you want in life, stop expecting people to explain to you how something is the solution to your disease. Like the cure to your disease is you. And this inability to get over that. You know how many times people come to me and they go, this boot camp, am I going to make $1 million? I'm like, no. They're like, well, is it going to solve all my problems? I'm like, no. And they're like, well, then I don't think I should invest $500. And I'm like, I agree. You shouldn't.
I paid $1,000.
No, I'm like, I don't think you should.
Yeah.
I said, I don't think you should. One of the things I've always done in my teachings has always been to not give in to becoming a marketer. That's always been the key. I've never marketed my product in the sense that I've never needed to lie to someone about their results and, writing like, you're gonna make $1 million so that people go, oh my God, I need to buy this now. I've always said to people, when you're ready, you'll find me. I'm the teacher you find when you're ready to find me. I'm not the teacher you find just because I've marketed to you so well that you're buying it.
Yeah.
Especially with the bootcamp, because there's a couple of things I learned when reaching my own level of consciousness that I brushed today, that one of the best ways we can increase our mental capacity for awareness, self-awareness, and consciousness is to understand we have 4 senses. Our ears, our nose, our visual, right? And our taste. And one of the things people don't realize is that my bootcamp is so much more about consciousness and about awareness than it is about, I'm going to teach you how to drop ship something, or I'm going to teach you how to be in business or make some money. But one of the things people don't realize is without that, you really aren't going to get good at the other thing.
Yep.
And so people always want to skip the -100 to 0 line and be like, I'm ready to make money today. I'm ready to start today. And it's like, great. I'm not questioning you can do that. What I'm questioning is, are you going to have the consistency to see it through to the end? Are you going to have the stability and commitment? Are you going to know how to set a destination? Are you going to know when to be self-honest with yourself, look in a mirror and saying, fuck this. I don't have what it takes to do it. I need to learn more. Are you going to adapt fast enough when the next COVID happens? Are you going to be able to be in a position not to be impacted by circumstance? Are you going to have thought out the future? These are the things that nobody's talking about because they're not sexy. And so the bootcamp isn't just like some information. And I think that's the part people understand. I make people, it's self-paced for a reason, because if you don't commit to your own growth, you're never going to commit to your own success. So if you can't pace yourself, you're just not going to make it anyways, right? Like it's just not going to happen. So one of the things that I always say is, if you're not going to pace yourself, then it's just not going to work. So again, I'm trying to make this like as simple as I can for people. Self-pace yourself so that you commit to yourself. The workouts in there, they're fucking annoying. Who wants to do 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups a day? Who wants to run a fucking mile? Nobody. I don't even fucking want to do it. But the point is, by giving you workouts you hate, there's 2 things that happens. First, you can do a push-up or sit-up anywhere. So you don't have an excuse for not going to the gym. I can't say, well, bench press this, use this treadmill. No, do it at home. Any fucking person can go run outside. I don't care where you live. Even if it's cold, that's the point. And then the second piece is the commitment to doing the things you hate. So you do what you need to do to get to what you want to do. And what I'm saying is, you have to be willing to commit to this very simple act of, I don't like this, but it doesn't matter. It's part of the process. And that I like it or not, I'm going to fucking do it.
Push through it.
And that I like philosophy or not,
Mhm.
I'm going to watch this video. That I like sales or not, or that I'm good at sales or not, I'm going to watch this. And I think that's the part that people don't understand, is that there is such a component here to being focused on the things you need, not the things you want.
Right.
And so the program is not exciting, it's necessary. And that's why I said it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
Like some people will look at it and be like, well, you know, I got to the third one and I got bored. Okay. Sorry, not every aspect of business is fun.
Right.
And involves buying exotics and having a good time. A lot of the first 8 years in business are boring, fucking annoying, and nobody wants to deal with it. That's just generally what it is. But if you can't even get through 90 days of that, how are you going to get through 8, 10, 15, 20 months of that? You're not. So when you require people to sell you on the idea of being self-honest with yourself and look in your mirror, most likely, even if you buy the bootcamp, you're not going to use it. Meaning you're going to drop off halfway through and be like, this is either too difficult, you're going to justify it by, I don't have time for this, I'd rather be making money, you know, and again, you won't prove to yourself you have even remotely the capacity to be semi-successful in anything you fucking do in life, regardless if it's money making or not.
Very cool answer on that. And it's the other thing I think you touched on a little is, you know, I've talked to nurses that have taken it, that found value, that still want to stay in their career, right? You've talked to the 33-year-old that hates his job, that wants to start something, that just can't make the resolution to do it, right? Like we talked to the guy about to graduate college, which I wish this was available when I was 22, right? And it's, again, I think you've put it together in a way where literally anyone, even the most successful guy, right? If he can stick through it.
Because it's built for humans. It's not built for business. And that's why I said it's awareness, self-awareness, and consciousness. Every human being has one of those three in them. Either they're lacking awareness, self-awareness, or consciousness. And so regardless of, if you're a fucking human, not a penguin or an animal, you can absolutely take benefit from this. Now, if you're an animal, then you probably won't understand the boot camp. And
that's good a choice.
Right. But if you are a human being, then one of the things people don't understand, I predict people's moves way faster than they can. And I can tell when someone's going to make it or not. And part of that comes from the very, like when I hire people, instantly know, like who's going to make it, who's not. And I know that because of where they stand in the scope of consciousness and what they're being asked to do and how much consciousness it requires to do.
Gotcha.
So same with relationships. Like I meet two people, they're like, oh, this is my new wife. I'm like, yeah, it's not going to work. And they're like, well, how do you know that? It's like, oh, we have everything in common. I'm like, yeah, it's not going to work. You're too far down the spectrum of understanding each other. And I think that one of the things that, again, people just don't realize is that they go, well, you can't predict that. And it's like, I can't 100% predict that, but I can use data of where you're in your conscious pool, just like I've analyzed thousands of human beings and where they were in their pool, and say that with 98% certainty, that ain't going to fucking work. No matter that you like it or not, unless A, B, and C happen. This person rises, this person slows down, this person exponentially grows, you know, through this methodology. But in general, that would be a problem, you know?
Gotcha. Another, let's call it objection, that when I talk to certain people is like, I'm a big fan of PJ. I have his Third Circle, Radius, some of his other books. Why would I need the boot camp? And what I've tried to say, I'm sure you'll say it much better, but I feel like you have the ingredients. The boot camp is kind of your recipe, right? It just ties everything together perfectly. Because if you read Third Circle,
so no, actually, that's a really good question, but it's really not like
told you I'd be wrong.
So one of the reasons bootcamp came along and it brought in some of these older products and not just redid everything. Like I said earlier, if the product's good, it doesn't need to get redone. Now, if your ego doesn't let you get past the fact that the video was recorded 3 years ago, I'm sorry. Like, I can't help you there. But I think the concept people understand. I sold probably, I want to say maybe 10,000 products, which were like the boot camp in different names at the time, which was like the Millionaire Mindset Program. It was, you know, like the Secret Academy, like whatever, you know, 101, whatever everything was. And one of the issues that arose is I spoke to 80% of that pool, you know, and because I've known people through the years and I've done this for 12 years, and people were like, yeah, I have that. I'm like, did you take that? And they're like, no.
Right.
And I'm like, well, did you have that? Like, yeah, I bought it like 2 years ago. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
Did you go through well, I read the books. I'm like, no. But did you go through all the courses, all the product, all the concept? And they were like, oh no, there's a lot. Now, what I did then is I charged coaching for like 10 grand to a few people. And one of the requirements to get into coaching is you had to go through that.
Okay.
And that's what gave birth to the bootcamp, because I realized that those people that took that because they were forced to go through all the program, every single one of them told me one thing. Jesus, I didn't know how much information was in there. If I would have known, I would have taken this 4 years ago. It would have helped me so much to actually go through what I had paid for, because most of them already had it.
Yeah.
And I was like, but you're forced to go through it now. So that's the only way you'll get in this coaching program. And when they went through it, they were like, I didn't believe how much stuff I actually learned. So what I realized was that the product wasn't flawed. The delivery was flawed because it was overwhelming for people. There were too many courses. They didn't know where to go. They didn't know which one to take first. Maybe it was boring to just sit on sales all day, talk about sales for like 7 days in a row. They were like, this isn't fun for me. So I decided with the bootcamp to kind of incorporate physical, mental awareness, education, all together, and stimulate your 4 senses while doing it to help people ensure they get through the program. Self-paced or not, there's a clear follow through day after day after day. And I think that's the key. So the key was the flaw in the product was not the product, but the delivery. Gotcha. So the bootcamp basically took that product and said, it's summarized this way and it's delivered this way. And there are gaps now that it's summarized this way. There are gaps in the program, which I filled. And I was like, how we pass from one to the other. There were missing components in the philosophy, psychology standpoint, which I added. There was a missing component in the physical standpoint. There was a time constraint of making sure it was within a reasonable amount of time per day. So it wasn't pushing people into like a 10-hour a day, sit there and watch videos all day, So I did it that way. And I think because of that, it's going to be not just received, but actually consumed properly. And I think, again, this goes back to saying, I can sell more units of a program, not giving a shit about that because it would cost me less,
right? And
just go on more. But again, it comes back to the teaching element, that when you commit to being a teacher, the end game is not to sell product. The end game is to ensure that the student is learning. So this is actually part of that commitment to ensure that the program is delivered in a way that people can commit to actually seeing it through. Because I think I've seen it time and time again. The program helps if you actually do it.
How many people do you, if on a percentage scale, that buy it, do you think actually complete it?
I think maybe 2 out of 10, 20%.
20%. Wow. And it's tough. I'll be the first.
And I mean, with bootcamp, it's been easier.
Yeah.
But pre-bootcamp, it was like 2 out of 10. Now it's maybe 4 out of 10.
4. So we're getting there.
And again, listen, I can only teach.
Yeah.
I can't force information down people's throats. And a lot of that comes, again, to self-honesty. You stare in a mirror, and if you convince yourself that you're happy, and you convince yourself that life is about being happy, then you're fucked. And there's nothing I can do for you. And there's nothing I can do for you. I just don't care. Yeah. Because if you're so stupid and think happiness is the point of life, and that you're so stupid to actually sit there and convince yourself you're rich when you only have $10,000 in your account, convince yourself you're good because you got a set of Gucci's, or convince yourself you're good because you got a $5,000 watch, you're so disconnected from the reality of life that you're not ready for me. Yeah. So it's very unlikely that you'll find any success, because awareness, consciousness, and all these things require the capacity for self-reflection. And if one sits in a mirror and goes, I'm great, man, I'm just feeling good about my life, and you have none of the things you want in life, I don't mean materially,
right?
But I mean in all ways, the freedom, and everything else, then you're so disconnected from who you're supposed to be that I can't help you there. There's a level where you need to be there. Someone once asked me, what is true freedom? Is it money? Is it like buying your time back? And I defined it in the simplest way. True freedom is freedom of choice with no boundary or restriction. And if you have that, then that's it. That's all it takes to be able to choose without thinking, can I choose that? Is that on the table? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And that's actually week 1 is about third circle and choices, right?
Yeah.
So,
but to understand that the end goal of success is to reach a level where that freedom of choice exists in your life. not the freedom of wealth, the freedom of time, freedom
Right.
of choice, because choice incorporates that too,
Yeah.
right?
Makes perfect sense. So you touched on it a little as well. Again, kind of your passions in teaching, and again, your boot camp's your most valuable product. Let's just call it that.
Mhm.
Your watch trading exotic cars probably a little more profitable. I'm
Well,
assuming
exotic
right
cars
now,
are about
so-
wealth preservation.
Right.
Watches are about wealth creation. Those are different.
So I've been, kind of a stalker of yours for like 5 years before I started getting more involved. And the watches, both were very intriguing. It seems, how can the boot camp help a new watch trader or a seasoned one that wants to take it to the next level? Because I think
Is the watch trader a human?
I would hope so.
All right. So like I said earlier, if they're not a penguin, they're going to take
Right.
full benefit from being in a heightened sense of consciousness. I mean, think about the simplest of things. There's a section in the boot camp that describes sales,
Mm-hmm.
selling, and my take on sales is not like, here's how you sell a product. Here's none of that shit. My entire thing on sales is the psychology of selling, the positioning of selling based on the human element that most people aren't talking about. So it's actually pretty in depth in the sense that that's how you take a competitive advantage. When everyone's doing the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
you'll learn how to sell in a way. Like I sell an average of probably like $5 million in luxury goods a month.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is an average, right? Some months I go 20, 30 million. Some months I go 5 million. So if I think about that and I look at my own track record, everything I sell, I never have to try to sell.
Right. I've noticed that in your
I
deals,
call one
yeah.
person and I'm like, you want this? I've pre-positioned knowing that person's choice, intent, all these things. And I've made a decision. I've said, this person is a good fit for that. I think I understand their goal and value. And I've made a phone call. I don't have to convince her, dude, you need to buy this right now. Like, just get it. People don't like to be sold to, but they love to buy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a watch trader, imagine if one phone call, one sale. Where you just cut down your time into like fucking, what if someone wants to buy your product and you say the wrong thing, right? So the psychology of selling is so much more important than like how to sell, and I think that's the thing that people understand. And at the end of the day, again, if you're a human being, you're the buyer. If you're a human being, you're the seller. So therefore it benefits both parties,
Yeah. So if you're a Watch Trading Academy member, exotic car member, just leave a comment or let us know while you're watching this. Another question that happened on some calls of mine is, what's coming from your perspective, what's the easiest and most difficult part of the boot camp?
The easiest part is turning on your computer. The hardest part is making sure you turn on your computer after 90 days.
All right. Wasn't expecting that, but I guess that's all right.
I mean, it's really what it comes down to,
Yeah.
It comes down to making sure you start.
Yeah.
It's the easiest part is starting because the excitement is there. The hardest part is making sure you're still doing it after 90 days, and you're actually like completing it.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing just the bootcamp in itself is the power of seeing something to completion, to the end.
Yeah.
Again, how many people start businesses, don't finish them? How many people start watch trading? They don't actually commit. How many people want to hack cars? They won't even buy their first car. What I'm saying is, it doesn't matter what the fuck you do. It could be a lawyer, it could be a doctor, it doesn't make a difference. Like the point is, you go to med school. How many people go to med school and drop off and they're like, yeah, I'm not studying this shit for like 12 years.
Yeah.
Like the commitment's lacking. And in itself, the commitment is the biggest. You see, there's a lot of abstract learning in the bootcamp. That's not
Tons.
That's not in the sense of like me telling you, here's how commitment works.
Yeah.
You're proving how commitment works by turning on your computer on day 1 and on day 90.
Yeah.
Or even day 95. Maybe it takes you longer to complete it, but you see it through to the end.
Yeah.
I told my employee recently, like I was telling you about Rachel, like in her new book, I told her, I said, stay consistent with the behavior and everything follows through.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, it's so hard. No one's responding to me. I'm not getting sales. I'm not getting that. And suddenly, within a week, we see this skyrocket thing. And she goes, well, we got lucky. And it's like, no, it's not luck. It's the compounding effort of the consistency of the activities that all of a sudden hit, like they said, being at the right place at the right time, right? Well, how about being at the right place at the right time, prepared to engage in the opportunity rather than just saying, I hope I land at the right place at the right time, because I don't know where that is. Again, lack of destination.
Yeah.
So being at the right place at the right time requires destination, commitment, and preparation. And if you're there, you're going to take advantage of what's happening. Like our business was doing really well pre-COVID. On COVID, like the first lockdown, our business 5x. And people were like, oh, well, what happened? I was like, we were ready to take that 5x.
Right,
we weren't confused and concerned. How will we do it? Where will we find staff? How will we manage this? What about that? We were ready and we're positioned. Watch trading is no different. How many people say they want to be watch traders? Then you say, okay, they go, I haven't even set up my PayPal account to accept the payment. And I'm like, yeah, well, how are you going to trade? You can't even send money or receive. Like,
yeah,
which logic was this? Like, where did it, like, do I need to go on the training and say, please have a bank account and an ID? It should be common fucking knowledge that in 2021, which is coming up in just a couple of weeks, you figured out you need an ID. You know, like, this is how humanity loses. I'm going to get a little political here, but it'll make sense. There are voter ID registration laws, right? That some states require ID and other states don't. And there is a significant poor population, you know, in some states that lack ID. And the stupidity is that one political party is trying to avoid these people voting. And the stupidity of the political party that actually wants to help these people make sure they can vote because they have a right as a citizen isn't trying to get more of these people to get IDs. They're trying to get laws to not change. Get it? Right. So they're not trying to bring people along and say, we live in a society where maybe it's a good idea for people to know who you are. And maybe to be a citizen, which means participation. And people say, well, I don't want to participate. Like, I don't know what to, it's not expensive. You know, like we'll work to maybe having a fund to help these people have ID. So even if laws change, their vote matters, right? Instead of just saying, well, we're fighting to not change the law and allow random people, you know, to get away with this. And what I'm saying is the point here is that the issue is the focus point, right? The issue is here, like people have to want to participate, you know, in their environment, you know, and I think that's, again, one of the big issues I've always had with the way people foresee success or their environment is that they separate society from life. They go, this job isn't my end job, so I'm not going to give it my all. This isn't my dream. This isn't my business. You know, this is a job versus I've always looked at everything as my purpose. If I worked at a bank, that was my purpose for the time because it was what I chose to commit to. And I think that is the issue with people is they justify why it's okay to be mediocre in life. They justify why it's okay to do nothing, to sit there and just let time pass. And I always tell people, you have to understand that if you leave an apple on a counter, what happens to it?
Rots.
Exactly. Then what happens if you eat it once it rots? It gets you sick. It's disgusting. What if you eat it as soon as it's on the counter? It serves its purpose, meaning it doesn't allow time to kill its purpose, right? And what happens if you put that apple in the refrigerator? Well, it takes longer, but it's still rot if it's not eaten. So unless the apple serves its purpose, it causes more damage to the environment than if it serves its purpose, regardless that it's in society in the refrigerator or it's on the table, abandoned, unable to overcome circumstance. So the point here is that like the apple, you have to serve your purpose before your time expires. And like the apple, even if you're in a refrigerator, like if you're in society, you have a great job, great paying job, you might still extend your lifespan and cycle to be like, well, I'm enjoying life longer and I'm not having to find my purpose. But eventually you will rot. What happens to 50, 60-year-olds who go, I just never followed my path. I don't, you know, I was in this job 50 years. I don't know anything else. And I don't love what I do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, why'd you do it for 50 fucking years? I didn't know better.
Yeah.
So you were stuck in that refrigerator, abandoned from trying to figure out how do you get eaten.
And I think that's one of the main takeaways for me with the boot camp is just that is like, you wake up, I guess it's maybe been sitting in the back of your mind for a while, but when you read it and you look in the mirror and you go, oh shit, I'm settling, you know?
Right. And you don't go after the things you want.
Yeah.
You justify why you can't have them.
Yeah.
You know, like, and that's the key. Like a lot of people are like, well, we'll wait till this year. And I'm like, what's going to happen then?
Yeah. What's it? Yeah.
No. So if they have a plan, then fine. You know, like someone goes, listen, I'm going to buy a Lamborghini in 2 years. I go, okay, what's going to be different in 2 years from now? And they don't know.
Mhm.
So I'm like, then what are you waiting for? Right? Like, because if nothing's going to change in 2 years, then either A, you're not going to have your goal, right? Or B,
Mhm.
you could have this goal right now. Why wait 2 years for it?
Right. Yeah.
Right? And so there's always a reason why people will allow themselves to rot, which again comes back to delay is the greatest form of denial.
Love it. Again, it all goes back to what I think you preach in the boot camps. It's on the person. You put all this together for someone, whether they absorb it and decide to
I don't give a
partake
shit.
it. Yeah, it's on.
And listen, my
whoever's
commitment,
watching, reading, or buying.
my commitment to
yeah.
teaching was this and always this, and that's why some people don't like me, which is okay. Like, you don't have to love.
I appreciate your bluntness.
But you don't have to love everybody, and I think
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
big mistake. People think I want to learn from people I love.
Mhm.
Part of the reason people don't love me is first, they don't understand me, and if they don't understand me and they're not willing to, then they're never going to learn it anyways, because they can't adapt. They only want things that make them feel good about their life.
Mhm.
Secondly, what I've said when I started committing to teaching, I'm already rich. I don't give a fuck. It's great if you buy boot camps. Great, I'll be richer. Nothing, that's not going to change. Meaning, like, money's money. That's fine. It's a business. It's going to run. The more a business makes, the more the people that own that business make money. That's a fact of life. If that's very difficult for you to grasp, or you don't like that, then don't fucking buy anything. Don't buy an iPhone. Don't buy any fucking thing else, because you're worried that fucking the guy at Apple is going to drive a fucking $10 million car next year, and that bothers you so much. Like,
Right.
I don't know why someone else's car would bother you, but somehow it still does, right? And which is okay. That's definitely not the program for you, right? But I think that one of the things that happens is I committed to teaching, not getting rich off of teaching. I organically will get even richer off of teaching because I'm good at it. I don't make an excuse for being good at it. I don't feel like I need to give away my teaching because it's just the right thing to do. There's no right and wrong in my life. It doesn't work that way. There's only choice. And for me, the choice to pursue a life of growth, evolution, and wisdom has been my personal commitment to myself, nothing to do with anybody else watching. And I've never given a fuck about anybody's opinion in the meantime. But that's the power of the freedom of choice. I was rich enough to have bought my time back to choose how I spend my time. Then I got wealthy enough to be able to make the choices that matter to me. So as a result, the choice to teach matters more to me than the choice to seek a student. The right student will find the teacher. And most importantly, here's the power of teaching, is that when someone finds their teacher, it doesn't mean I'm going to be your teacher for life. It just means you're going to learn what you need to learn from me, and you're going to move forward. And at some point, you'll find other teachers. Just like when I sucked in banking, I entered, I didn't know what I was doing. I found teachers in the field, people that were excellent at what they did. And I just watched them. I paid attention to them. At the time, we didn't have things like this. We didn't have fancy shit. We didn't have Instagram. But I saw a guy, he was more successful. He drove a nicer car than all the other guys that worked there.
Yeah.
And I became his best friend. And I didn't ask him, would you mentor me? Would you share how you do this? I just watched him.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, how does he behave with a client? How does he behave with his staff? What makes him make more money?
Got it. Very cool.
And was he my only teacher? No. Did he even know he was my teacher? No. He was just a guy that did his job. But I was in the proximity of understanding how his head worked. And then later, again, in business, same thing. When I got in the online trading space, I didn't understand anything. Like, I was like, I don't fucking know how this shit works. And I swear to you, we had worked 4 years, zero revenue. My other company was up to like $60 million, and I was like zero in this. And people are like, what are you doing? This is making all this, like, go back, man. You're making all this money. Focus on that. What is this bullshit? Like, why are you wasting time? I remember my own girlfriend at the time. I was like, do you even read what I write? She was like, why? It's stupid. And I was like, okay. Well, really? Like, you don't even reading? She's like, no. She's like, you've been consumed by this project. And yet, I don't give a fuck. And I was like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm in the wrong business, right? Maybe I made a mistake. 4 years later, you're not making money all this time. You're working 5 times more in your own business. Maybe you're wrong. But you know what else happened to you? I was like, maybe I've just never had someone that can tell me the truth.
Yeah.
So you know what I did? I found the best fucking online marketer in the world. And I was like, have lunch with me. I'll pay you whatever it takes. And it was like, I'm already your client. I'm like, you are? He's like, yeah, with the card thing. I was like, oh, really? I was like, yeah. So would you have lunch with me? He was like, yeah. We met, we had lunch. And he didn't teach me. I just paid attention to what he was saying about his own story. And you know what I realized? It took him 12 years to make zero the same way I was at 4.
Yeah.
And I was already ahead in the metrics of what he was using to gauge his success. And then I was like, maybe it's not that I'm stupid or we're wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe it's that it takes time, and like I'm not understanding that. And so I would have given up. I wouldn't be here today. But instead, I said, let me take my expectation, which I don't understand because I don't know this industry, and let me focus on the reality. This is the self-reflection, looking in the mirror, right? Like I said, instead of saying, oh, I'm good, I'm great, I said, stop, reflect, be honest. And I said, fuck, I'm ahead, I'm not behind. And I kept going. And people in my team, some did, some didn't, like, and they were like, oh, it's bullshit, like, it's never going to get anywhere. And what I'm saying is the commitment to the purpose stood true, and I was ahead. And so eventually, like 3 years later, it came to fruition, to the point where it was like, we know we're on that upscale, growth. So it's going to get there.
Well, and I love that in the boot camp, and again, for stalking you, let's call it, for 5 years, you're blunt, you're to the point, you don't bullshit in terms of, I'm not going to sell you this and you're going to, turn into a millionaire in 2 weeks. It's you make very clear in the boot camp, expect 10 years minimum. Some people might get a little luckier, and hit massive success in 5 or whatnot.
And 10 years not to make money, but 10 years to master a skill.
Okay, yeah.
And I think that's the part people don't understand. They think when I say it's a 10-year journey, they go, I ain't got 10 years.
Yeah.
This real estate guy promised me $1 million in 2.
Right.
I didn't say you can't make some money. I didn't say you can't make $1 million before the 10 years. I said you won't have trade mastery in 2 years, no matter how much money you fucking make.
Gotcha.
And I think that's the key. Trade mastery is what ensures every 5 years you're not looking for a new business idea.
Yeah.
Like all my peers, every day, new program, new business, new this, new that. And I'm doing the same shit 10 years later. I get people that call me, they're like, you still doing that exotic car hack thing? And I'm like, it's not like I still doing it. I'm always going to be doing it.
Yeah.
So that's what I fucking do. I'm like really good at it. Like I understand money and I like understand that. Doesn't mean I won't do something else too. But it doesn't mean that has to die and every 5 years something new has to come out. Yep. And they go, well, what's the difference between a marketer and you? I go, I mean, look at fucking Tai Lopez. Every 2 years he's got a new fucking thing he's doing. I'm not saying there's something wrong with that, but that's what he is. He's a great marketer and he sells products and he comes up with something new and he sells that. Except that I've committed to being a master at what I do. And then I'm simply teaching what I've done best. And I think that is the difference between a marketer, someone who finds something that is marketable and says, I'm going to sell this and get rich off of it, which is in itself a mastery and a talent. But the mastery is not in the teaching. It's in the way that's sold to people, right? And so I think that's where humanity gets lost, then calling people like Tai Lopez a scammer, rather than understanding that there's a difference between marketing and truth. And that's the simplest thing. Like you could look at it at a marketer, say, I used to have $47 in my bank account and I used to sleep on a couch. Now that marketer has simply made 2 statements, that he had one account, $47 in it, and that he slept on a couch. The human conceived that message as, I used to be broke and I didn't have a place to live. There is no correlation between the two. And that is what comes to the reality. One did not lie. Right. One assumed, get it? Like, so therefore they could feel like they're being misled, but the misleading is their inability to look in a mirror.
Got it. Very cool. Well, listen, we have probably about 5 minutes left. So if there are any more questions, keep them coming. I'm going to quickly touch on 2 more while we wrap up. So gate of choice, your third and final. It's okay to say final?
Yeah.
It's final.
Final
That's
book. It, baby.
Yeah. It's touched on with some videos with you and JT towards the end of the boot camp.
I call him the lost soul.
The lost soul. The lost soul. I like that. How do you see the boot camp? Why did you introduce that in the boot camp is, I guess, kind of what my question
was.
Well,
because the boot camp really hits on first and second circle more than anything else. And the third circle is about the birth of consciousness. Now, this is the interesting part. The birth of consciousness in itself is a 10-year journey. That you won't be able to skip. You get lucky with 3 or 5. That's a 10-year plan. When I say it's a 10-year plan, I mean, it is a brutal 10-year plan too, if you're really good at it. So the one thing I will say is The Gate of Choice is the most special book I've ever written. And it's definitely not for everybody. I will guarantee that probably 80% of people that read The Gate of Choice won't get past section 2. I mean, it takes a lot of self-awareness and consciousness to enter stage 3 and 4 of that book.
So it's okay if you're reading that to reread it a couple
Well,
times.
I think what's going to happen for people is, first off, there's some people that are going to get it and it's going to move their world upside down, almost like the books from another planet. Like they're just learning something they've never understood, right? I mean, I break down concepts in there that are extremely, extremely complex about dimensional awareness, relativity theory as it pertains to destiny versus free will, and things that would fucking make some philosophers cry and things that would make psychologists argue me out on a stage for 20 years, which is fine. That's the point of advancement and evolution. It is not to take the same ideas and reiterate them, but rather help use the ideas that over time people have missed as the pattern analysis have compounded, and there's now enough data to make this theory, a valid possible alternative to what people understand. And so I think that the Gate of Choice is not for everybody, but I think everybody should at least get into it once they've read the first 2 books and see if they can get through it. But I also think that some people should realize that if they can't get through it, it isn't because the book isn't entertaining because it was never meant to be, but rather because they're not in a place where it's time for them to yet venture in that place. And so with the thing of consciousness is you have to be extremely self-honest, like to a degree that is brutal. Like, I mean, you have to be like, look in a mirror and be like, I'm an addict. I'm this, and be 100% okay with that. Not to look at it as a negative, but to have completely wiped yourself of any value system of good and bad and right and wrong. And it is very difficult to do that. Like, you have to be okay with the idea that it is not wrong to murder. Like what I'm saying is that is a brutal commitment to changing your value system, and you have to destroy the existing one. And again, I am not telling people that it's okay to murder, but I'm saying that you have to be in a place where you disvalue all of the previous learnings you've had, and you reconstruct your value system from a place of self-honesty. And it's very difficult to do. So to get there, again, it's not for everyone, but those it is for will truly find the value in the destination I've created for them to be able to see how to create their self-destination towards being able to survive the 10-year journey to consciousness. The end result is so incredible that I can't really I can't explain it because you have to feel it. But I will tell you that my books are a byproduct of my own learning, meaning I was a student of my own teaching while I was writing my books. So the conclusion of Gate of Choice became my own conclusion to entering my final stage of consciousness. So what I will tell people is that there is a feeling you gain of a level of bliss and freedom that I've never experienced in my life until I was done with that journey, that I wish every human in the world could feel for even 10 minutes. Because you would stop giving a fuck about anything. Imagine fear of judgment going away, fear of abandonment going away, fear of acceptance going away, fear of failure going away, having zero restriction in your life, zero boundaries, zero fears, zero limits, and to completely accept how time works in your life to a degree where you have zero fear of death, disappointment, or anything else on an ongoing basis, 24 hours a day. Like to live this way is, to me, the most freeing and powerful concept ever for a human. However, I wish there was a way I could make people feel that for 10 minutes, because if that became people's addiction, I mean, they would fucking they'd be killing it. The world would be a better place, because the advancement and the evolution of humans would be so great on the basis of this addiction being the leading factor, even if it's not anything else, because it's actually a good addiction, to want to live in that state all the time.
Wow. Cool answer. Deep answer.
Well, so, it's not a normal book.
Yeah, no, trust me, I get that. Yeah. So wrapping up, the last question that came through is, what do you hope will happen to someone who completes the boot camp?
Nothing. I hope.
Well, damn it.
I know. I hope that someone completes the boot camp and can again change the image they see in that mirror. And that image is not fatter, skinnier, this, that. It's rather the layer of ego that disappears when you're done. I think it's a humbling experience. I think that if you truly understand it, like
It's very humbling.
yeah. So if you take down the ego,
Mm-hmm.
I think you'll start aligning your reality to what's happening, not your societal identity. It's like the Matrix, where you get out of the Matrix and you see the real world for what it is. And you go, there's so much work to be done. Like there's so much work to be done if I can get out of my own head.
Yeah.
And you start realizing that. And I think that even if 10% of the population that takes it do that, then that is already making the world a significantly better place, because people are going to teach their kids the power of choice instead of the power of control. So many parents teach their kids control, like don't do this, don't do that, it's right, it's wrong, instead of teaching their kids the power of choice. And I've always said that my original thought when I started Secret Entourage originally, not even any of these other platforms or anything else, has always been, if I can move the needle from 1% to 2%, not even go 50%,
Mm-hmm.
then we've already won. Now, if we can get more people to participate in the game of life, rather than be prisoners or victims of it, we've already won. So the goal has always been to win and to evolve. But the goal was that the ultimate victory is when victimhood disappears out of the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when people start realizing that they need to start living a life for the self, not for the ego. And it's much, much easier said than done. Much easier said than done. But it is necessary, and that people like it or not, it is the only way to achieve a level of consciousness. The ego is a tool used to filter energy. It is not what people have made it to be, which is an alternate personality to survive in a world that is complex, that they don't understand. And so when they use it as such, they get locked in by their ego, and it basically becomes their alternative personality.
Mm-hmm.
And it prevents them from experiencing the true art of what humanity and the world is about, and your existence and your cosmic purpose is as a human, which is evolution.
Wow. Great answer. Kristen, are we good on the questions?
I have some questions right here for you. So Ryan says, how do you get past the initial fear of making the first investment? At what point do you know that if the deal or whatever is solid enough for you to go forward with?
You use data, and data is the only way you can make a conscious decision. And if the data aligns, then you need to get over your fear. And if you lose, then you lose. I've made investments where someone was like, give me 100 grand for this. I said, here. Shit was gone 3 months later. I looked at the data and I said, technically, I was wrong.
Yeah.
The data was off. I did it because I thought a big deal, like we're going to do well.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't work out. No big deal. I learned. I went back to the data. Every time the data decision was made, the emotion was out of it. It was more like, this makes sense. It worked.
Have you ever made an emotional business decision?
Yeah, that one. I was like, here's
That
100
one?
grand.
Yeah.
My closest friend was like, we're going to start this company. I was
Okay.
like, okay.
One.
He was super rich. It wasn't
Yeah.
like, it wasn't that much money, but it was like still like.
Okay, another one. What if I over self-reflect to the point where I analyze my limitations more than my strengths?
Then stop doing that shit. It's fucking annoying. Like, I mean, there's
Is
really
that
no.
Nair?
Hmm?
Can you say who asked that?
Ryan.
Ryan.
No.
Okay,
So
yeah.
if you're focused on your limitations, then you have to start questioning your value system. What in your world do you see as right and wrong and good and bad? And the first place you need to start changing to change that is to remove that barrier of which box do I live in? And am I moving towards the right side of the box or the left side of the box?
Okay. How do I sign up for the boot camp? I don't know if you want to take that one.
Yeah, we're gonna drop a link. PJ, you're gonna let me extend some pricing for a little while longer.
Whatever you guys want to do.
So let's.
I don't care.
Hopefully, this brought a little clarity. So we'll put a link at the end, because again, I have a passion for this because I went through it and it's changed a lot. I'm 43. If I'd have had this when I was 23, 33, it probably would have saved me 8 years of struggles and God knows how many bad decisions. I just hope more people can find the time, and it's an investment in yourself, right? I tell people it's like, for the price it was during Early Bird, it was $4 a day for 90 days. So hopefully that's something you can figure out. And if you're you're on the fence. I hope some of this information helped you out. So that's kind of what the goal was here. And again, it's a hard thing to grasp. And I think PJ, your answers gave me more clarity. So hopefully people that were thinking about it helped as well. So
I hope so. I hope it helps people.
How do I best prepare myself for the constant changing environment?
How do you prepare yourself?
For the constant changing environment.
That's a very subjective question. I mean, to be prepared means to have self-belief, right? And if you're in a business and you don't understand your destination, then you don't understand the factors that impact that destination. Meaning, if you know your destination and you see a pandemic coming, you can already look at data, what is going to impact that? Like, how is that going to change? Am I going to be able to get my supply from overseas? What is going to change? And you have to be ahead of threats in your business by just understanding the dynamic of what's happening. I mean, we knew when COVID happened, people would lose their jobs. We were like, hey, we have a money-making opportunity in watch trading. We knew people would lose their jobs and be home. They have more time to learn and do e-learning. So we knew that would explode. So again, we were prepared, and so we invested more money in support staff early to overcome that. So we could take advantage of this graph the same way that if we saw a downturn coming, we would cut down maybe on expenses, look at, what is an essential role, who needs to do more for less money just to make sure we survive. And the hard part becomes that people are afraid to face challenges because they look at threats as worst case scenarios instead of just a reality of what they face. Like we started trending in this new product, 50 to 100 new products sold a day from 5 a day. So a huge gap, right? And the first thing everybody does is worry about packaging. They go, where were we going to get packaging? We don't have enough packaging. And I go, the first thing I'm worried about is at the rate we're doing, how long is the timetable to reorder 50,000 more product?
Right.
Get it? So I'm thinking long-term, everybody's like, how do we fill these orders? And I'm already thinking about at the rate we're going by March, we're going to have a shortage of 10,000 units a month. So I got to plan now to how to make sure these units stay. But what if it doesn't keep up? Then what am I going to do with storage of so many units? So I started rethinking my plan about what the timetables do I need to review this to make sure that I don't get to March and go, oh, I need a new product. Now we're out. And then I go, it takes 4 months to get a new product, guys. That's 800K in lost sales, over like 4 months. What the fuck? And then what if it dies down after because it's not there, right? What if people aren't hot for it anymore? So what I'm saying is this is the difference between and someone who understands they're a business owner and can look at time not as an enemy, but rather as a tool, rather than people who are not and just kind of fall victim to their circumstance again.
Great. And then I think last question here. This is in reference when you said, living without fear of anything. Can we live that way and still be empathetic and understanding of others and build healthy relationships with them?
100%. I think that, again, our context of what life should be is what's kind of been pre-programmed in our minds, not necessarily as accurate. But to say that does not mean you cannot, to be focused on evolution does not mean that you've forsaken all the relationships you have and the connections you have to people. But if you know what I know about people, you tend to be more selective about who you allow to take your time. And when you're not conscious, you're giving everyone your time. The more conscious you become, the more you go, yeah, I just don't want to talk to you. During a big part of this political debates and everything, I was telling people, like, you have the choice as to which party you want to support. However, I had a very hard line. I said, if you spread fake news on any basis, you don't look at the source of an article, you don't read it, you're spreading shit, I will block you, I will not teach you, and I don't care that you've paid me $10,000 to learn, get out. Because I will not teach someone to be a person of more influence because they're more successful when they are not using their awareness to understand the social responsibility that holds in the participation of society. And so I had very good friends, people that love me online, that always support what I do, blocked. And they were like, I can't see anything you're doing anymore. I'm like, sorry. And they're like, well, no, I didn't mean to. I was like, but you did. And the thing is, you didn't take it seriously enough.
Yeah.
You didn't think that people paid attention to that. And so when you cause the collapse of something on the basis of ignorance, then you don't deserve either my teaching or my friendship. And as a result of that, again, this is what comes down to, I'm rich enough not to give a fuck. So it was like, yeah, if we lose money, and of course my sales staff, which, was pissed because they're like, well, these people, like these guys are like, they're bought into a program. And I'm like, I understand, that's good for them. But I said, I have a social responsibility as a human being to ensure that who I teach, not that I can control everybody that I choose to teach, but who is learning or who's getting clout from me is not going to be someone that goes ahead and is stupid enough to not read what they're sharing as a means of sharing it. And I just said, I don't want a part of it. Now, some people disagree, it's bad business is this. I don't give a shit. That's the point. I don't have to give a shit. And I think if you start living a life where you can choose what matters to you and what doesn't, then again, you're free of that fear of judgment. I don't care that someone speaks negatively or positively of me. What I care about is if someone has context. Like my friends come to me and they're like, this business idea is stupid. I'm like, how many online businesses you build? 0. What the fuck? You don't have an opinion. Like, get out of here. Like, why are you having a conversation with me?
Right.
Versus if I'm building a product and my e-commerce guy comes to me and goes, hey, you're fucking that up. Speak.
Yeah.
Speak up. Speak up. Like, what do you notice? What are we doing wrong? Let me hear your thoughts. And again, if there's context to who's providing information, just like people get angry, like they go, someone in the street told me to go fuck myself. I'm like, who was it? I don't know. Why the fuck do you care?
Right.
Like what does it matter? Yeah. Like, well, that guy is rude. I'm like, okay, so what? He wants to live his life that way. What the fuck do you care? Yeah. And it's like, it doesn't matter. Get it? Like, it doesn't matter. It's the same when a guy hits on your girlfriend. People are like, that guy has balls. I'm like, yeah, good ones. He's fucking trying at least, right? Half the people wouldn't have tried.
Take a swing. Yeah.
And hey, more power to me. My girlfriend's hot. He's trying to pick her. Like, fucking great. Like, fantastic, Now, if she, however, reciprocates that
problem,
I have a problem with her because I have a relationship here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a relationship there.
Yep.
So I don't have an expectation, right? Like the expectation is not that a random person won't seek beauty and come and engage in conversation. The expectation is that the history here should overcome this, right? And if it doesn't, then I have to then make a conscious decision not to, oh, why did you do this?
Right.
Not even be angry about it, but understand that a choice leads to another choice and a path leads to another path, and forks in the road appear every fucking 10 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
And so if I am then victimized by that, how could you? Then I technically fit in the first circle. So that's why anger and emotion doesn't exist. And empathy isn't real. It's what you've been preconditioned to kind of believe is part of the human condition that makes you love. And that in itself is a problem, because even when we talk about love, people always talk about, well, it's all about the emotion and connecting people. Your love chakra, your whole heart chakra, doesn't really develop until the latest stages of consciousness. And so when most people think they love, it comes from a place of ego because of what they receive. So the ego receives love, or what they believe to be lust, love, or anything else that's reciprocated. And it's this constant feel-good feeling that drives to this, what I call a state of disorder, which is this idea that we're supposed to be happy. And I think that's the biggest issue with people, is that they always focus on what makes me happy. And so they're always happy for the moment.
Right.
My happiness is tied to my evolution. The more I evolve, the higher state of happiness I live in or exist in without needing external factors to do that. My girlfriend doesn't make me happy. My future wife will not. My business does not. I make myself happy. And that's what I was saying. When you're fully in control of your consciousness, you don't require things to make yourself happy. And I think that is the key to understanding that the state of love comes in the later cycle of evolution, not in the beginning. Because loving in the earlier cycles is simply a mirror of your ego. When you believe you're truly in love, that's why early love, like in high school or everything, is very possessive, very confrontational, and not so truly balanced, and just and it doesn't evolve. Things, people break apart, and they break apart faster because neither party has evolved into a state of consciousness, and neither party is aware of the other party. So it's like two people just doing their own thing and saying, well, we don't agree anymore. We don't see the same place. So have a good day. And an early marriage always ends up broken down, Cool.
Yeah.
Got what you need. All right, people. Well, thank you for watching.
Appreciate it, everybody.